Today's episode: is Adam LZ worth it to drive for RTR, Aston Martin in Formula Drift, and how 0.4 points can decide the fate of the championship. Hi, my name is GRINYA, this is our new project about the main events in the drifting world, and we decided to call it One More Time. Let's roll! In early April, California hosted the opening of the Formula Drift 2022 Summer Drift season. Long Beach is a legendary place for any drift fan. For many years, the opening of the year has been held here. Truly speaking, the 2020th year with its epidemic was a break year for Long Beach, and in the 2021 season the race was generally postponed to September. Finally, Long Beach is back on the Formula Drift calendar and is opening the season as usual. California allows for an early season opener in April with no risks. I don't remember bad weather in Long Beach in the last 10 years. This year was no exception, and what has become an exception is the roster of new faces of the Pro class. And such an arrangement always promises intrigue to find a new James Dean or Daigo Saito who will set new trends for the series. The track and judging task is, as always, scary and dangerous in Long Beach, and if the location of the scoring areas of the first round of Formula Drift 2022 has not changed, the judging task has undergone minor changes. First touch and go was replaced by full-fledged outside zone 1. At first glance a small change, but in real life the touch and go is really only needed to be touched, but the zone must be filled from start to finish. Apart from the new names, Long Beach 2022 was also the scene for new cars and promotional ground for the latest models. It was unexpected to see Ryan Turk's Corolla with stickers on the front and back of the car on media day before the race. As it turned out, the new look of his Toyota Corolla was a drift version of the absolutely new Toyota Corolla GR, which was unveiled right before the race. However, attention from the Corolla's new body kit was successfully diverted by Terran Kelly from New Zealand with a very unexpected showing of pro drift car Aston Martin Vantage. It looks like it's a work of art, but will this project good enough to drive for the result? Chris Forsberg and his team built the new Nissan Z from scratch in 6 weeks and only put the car on wheels on Wednesday before the race. The new Nissan Z immediately climbs into the 8th place in qualifying. That's what it means to be a 3-time champion. Speaking of the look of the new Z, it got lost in the dark colors and is quite difficult to evaluate it. I remember the appearance of Forsberg's 370Z in 2011, and that was bright and very long ago. Well done, Chris and his team, for getting the new car going so quickly. And then there's the latest innovation of the season, the Toyota GR86. Stefan Papadakis built this model for Jonathan Castro with a B58 engine. The car looks beautiful in bright colors, but it's hard to call this model brand new. As far as I know, GR86 chassis is identical to GT86, and most of the differences come down to external elements and new engine if we talk about stock car. Before the start of the new season, Formula Drift published 37 names of drivers in the Pro class, but only 34 went to the race in Long Beach. And straight away qualifying showed that there will be no new Dean and Saito this year, but for the title of Rookie of the Year, the fight will be pretty interesting. But overall scores of pilots in qualifying were lower than usual, and I have two versions why it's so. The first one, which I don't want to believe, is that pilots didn't want to risk, and the second one seems to me more probable, is the change of first touch and go zone to the outside zone, which must be passed all through. The attempt of the drivers to get to the full zone resulted in limited time for the transition before the second zone and the further problems in getting through the whole judging task. During the 2 days of the race, I only saw a near-perfect line a few times, and sometimes from the pilots who were going a little slower than the rest. Back to the list of drivers, Ole Jager, Joshua Reynolds and Trent Beecham didn't even make it to the race. Kazuya Taguchi was there but couldn't make it to the start because of some technical issues. Federico Scerifo, though he did make it to the start, as often happens, couldn't convince his Ferrari to drift through the Long Beach 2022 configuration. Qualification was held according to the knockout system, when all drivers making the first attempt and according to its result fixed their places from 1st to 27th. All those who are low in result or couldn't pass the first attempt fight for places from 28 to 32 in their second try. Only 32 of the 34 participants were able to show effective attempts. As I said earlier, Kazuya Taguchi didn't even make it to the start, while Federico Scerifo's Ferrari, though making an appearance at the start, failed to go sideways. Taking into consideration that Darren Kelly has successfully driven GTR R35 in D1 New Zealand, there were high hopes that his Aston Martin would show results in America, instead of joining the team of very beautiful and original Formula Drift supercars that are constantly breaking down. Hopes have not yet been fulfilled. Steering system problems have prevented a high result in qualifying, and Darren Kelly didn't even make it to the start at top 32. Probably the loudest hype of the off-season was Adam LZ's transfer. Replacing Von Gittin Jr., Adam joined the RTR team and moved from Nissan to Ford Mustang. Interesting fact, at this point, the leadership of the team passed from Von Gittin Jr. to Chelsea Denofa, as did the role of an apprentice from Chelsea Denofa to Adam LZ. We'll talk about the results of LZ's first round with RTR a little bit later, but for now I can see that Formula Drift isn't letting go that easily. At the end of last season, two former champions, Daishiro Yoshihara and Von Gittin Jr., announced their retirement from drift racing. But while Gittin immediately said he was staying on to run the RTR team, Daishiro Yoshihara made no such announcement. However, both were at the race in Long Beach. Gittin was in the RTR lineup as promised, while Daishiro Yoshihara was sharing his participation on Instagram as spotter of Wataru Masuyama. If you remember, the race took place on April the 1st, and Yoshihara suddenly showed his car for the 2022 season of Formula Drift on Instagram. But it turned out to be just a Fool's Day joke. Based on the qualification results, the top 32 bracket was formed. Although qualifying results were not high, the top 32 bracket still evenly spread out the top drivers. Among the top 8 drivers, only Rom Charpentier seemed to be the breakthrough of the race. The rest were the usual suspects: Turk, Phil, Denofa, Bakchis, Hughes, Asbo and Forsberg. Adam LZ is only 11th, but for his debut in a new car, that's not bad. After the top 32 bracket was published, it was immediately clear that either Chris Forsberg or Michael Essa would be in the way of Ryan Turk to the podium. Ori Bakchis, by the way the winner of Long Beach 2021, had it relatively easy up to the top 4. The right side of the bracket, on the other hand, was more difficult. Denofa and Asbo had to decide who would end up in the semifinals, and the bottom right side of the top 32 was full of surprises from the start. Already in top 32, Dylan Hughes versus Justin Pollock and Adam LZ versus Wataru Masuyama. Matt Field alone was comfortable there until the top 8. Of the highlights of the top 32, Yves Meyer was memorable, changing from a V8 BMW F22 to a straightforward Toyota GT86. This radical platform change helped him to drive very well with Chris Forsberg and even put pressure on the 3-time Formula Drift champion. But his erratic angle and lack of fluidity kept him from taking the win. Chris Forsberg goes through to the top 16. Another battle involving 2013-year champion Michael Essa against Taylor Hall didn't go according to plan at all. All the advantages were on Essa's side. He's at least riding a familiar BMW E46 platform, while Taylor Hall has just moved from Cadillac to Corvette. The interesting fact is that Essa lost this battle in the lead role, even though Taylor Hall's riding was not ideal. Long Beach is known for crashes, and it all started in top 32. In Ryan Littoral's run against Jonathan Hurst, Littoral's unexpected deacceleration in the first outside zone brings Hurst too close to him, and further on, literally drives Hurst into the wall. A very nasty crash, Hurst's new car gets seriously damaged and he himself comes out of the car limping. Of course, the car cannot be repaired in all the allotted timeouts, and although Jonathan Hurst makes it into the top 16, the rules don't allow him to get there anymore. What seemed to me to be the intrigue of top 32, Dylan Hughes versus Justin Pollock, was no intrigue at all. After identical mistakes, the pilots go for one more time, and there Pollock straightens and Hughes goes into the top 16 after his bye-run. Adam LZ, oh Adam LZ, such were the hopes that in previous years he lacked the reliability of the car, the experience of the team and other things that can be acquired with time. In the top 32, Adam goes against Wataru Masuyama. The Japanese driver is in his third season trying to repeat his success from Formula Drift Japan in the American series, but is so far failing. Adam LZ is having a good run as leader, although the similarity of his car to Dinoff's now always makes me compare their runs, and so far the score is definitely not in Adam's favor. In the run with Masuyama, after a role change, LZ does a too early transition and, in an attempt to get back on the right line, finds a lot of grip, straightens and saves Mustang from the wall of tires at the last moment. Thus, we were not allowed to assess Adam's worthiness to drive for RTR. Hopefully, we'll find it out at the next round in Atlanta. The most interesting confrontation of the top 16 was the battle of Rom Charpentier against Daniel Stucke. Charpentier finished 5th in qualifying, while Stucke was the best rookie of the Pro class and took 12th in qualifying, just behind Adam LZ. Charpentier makes a good lead run, while Stucke looks a little worse as a chaser. After switching roles, Stucke performs a superb lead run, allowing the judges, by split decision, send the drivers to one more time. Daniel Stucke makes the right conclusions and in the one more time battle keeps the pressure on the leader until a small contact on the inside clipping point. The role reversal, and here an interesting situation occurs on the third clipping zone. Stucke hits the concrete so hard that it corrects the angle of his car, and because of this, Charpentier allows contact and spins out. The judges make an interesting split decision and send the drivers to the second one more time. In 2021, a similar situation occurred between Forsberg and Pollock, when Pollock's straightening counted as loss to him. Well, okay. Another one more time battle, and the tension is so high that Stucke makes a mistake and knocks out Rom's BMW on the inside clipping point. Charpentier is simply left to ride his chase run and get a deserved pass into the top 8. However, Daniel Stucke has impressed. We'll keep an eye on his progress in the Pro class. An interesting battle between the two cars built by Stefan Papadakis. The A90 Supra driven by Fredrik Asbø against the GR86 driven by Jonathan Castro. Asbø is last year's champion and Castro has a new car, right? So Castro shows incredible skill and takes the champion to one more time. Unfortunately, Castro can't make it to the next battle due to a technical issue, and Fredrik Asbø runs his bye-run and makes it to the top 8. In the top 8, the drama builds up to a maximum. A friendly battle between Ryan Turk and Chris Forsberg ends with a frustrating gearbox failure in the new Nissan Z. Forsberg could not get into the 4th gear on the straightaway, which caused a big separation with the leader. He couldn't get advantage back from Turk in the second round, so Ryan Turk advances to the semi-finals. Audi Bakshis beats Rom Charpentier due to his broken knuckle in his BMW after contact with Stucke. Hopefully his car hasn't suffered the worst damage in the beginning of the season. Dinoff versus Asbø, and Chelsea takes a massive angle, cannot hold it and straightens. As it became known after some problems, the team couldn't find the optimum settings for the battle against Asbø, and as a result Fredrik Asbø goes to the top 4. And here it is, with a near-perfect run of the day from Matt Field in the lead. Although the correction was unnecessary on the third outside zone, it should be noted that Dylan Hughes rode very well, but the level of aggression that Field showed, he failed to achieve. So all the familiar faces made it to the top 4. Ryan Turk, Audi Bakshis, Fredrik Asbø and Matt Field. Ryan Turk versus Ori Bakchis. Both leaders' runs are very good, but the main questions are for the chasers' runs. Although Ryan Turk was shallow on angle, he mimicked the line of the leader better than Bakchis. Unanimously, Turk is in the final. Matt Field versus Frederick Asbo. Mind you, it's the vice champion against the champion of the 2021 season. This battle could not have been an easy one. On the initiation, Asbo tries to get as close as possible to the chaser, and on the transition, the Supra A90 leaves no room for the leader Field. Field's Corvette crashes into the concrete and suffers critical damage, preventing him from continuing the race. Later on Instagram, Matt posted a video of the Corvette's banded chassis, meaning the damage was indeed too much. Frederick Asbo apologized for the mistake and admitted defeat. Thus Field, already without a car, goes to the final, while Asbo, with his lowest qualification of all the top 4 competitors, takes the 4th place of the race. Third goes to Ori Bakchis, second to Matt Field, and Ryan Turk makes his bye run and becomes the winner of Long Beach 2022. To our great regret, that's how we were left without a spectacular battle in the final. The race was an interesting one, with all the familiar faces on and around the podium. Happy for Daniel Stuckey with his desire to win, upset for Darren Kelly with technical issues of his Aston Martin. We look forward to the second round at Atlanta 2022 in May, but in the meantime, you can watch the race highlights on the Formula Drift YouTube channel. The opening of the 2022 Formula Drift season is a great event, but it's been a not very quiet winter in the drifting world. Oman hosts a 3-stage championship every winter, with a dozen or so foreign drifting stars coming to compete. On the one hand, the local drifting community gets to try their drifting skills at international level. On the other hand, foreign fans follow their idols in Oman. Unfortunately, it was not possible to hold the championship in the 2021 season due to the COVID restrictions, although the cars of foreign competitors arrived in Muscat, Oman. They had to be sent back to the owners. But the winter of 2022 was very interesting for the Oman International Drift Championship. The first 3 OIDC seasons, James Dean won the title. This year, he didn't make it to Oman, so he cleared the way for 2020 vice champion Sebastian Fontaine and other top-class drivers. The first round of the 2022 season began with problems for last year's favorites Sebastian Fontaine and Andrius Vasilauskas. They left the race even before the start for technical reasons. Once drive shaft fractures the floor of the car, the other's engine simply explodes. Although there are only a few weeks between rounds, the teams managed to eliminate issues before the second round. The Omani pilots show a much higher level compared to the first years of OIDC. In the first stage, Ahmed Al-Amri gets to the top 4, where he is disqualified for a second technical timeout. Dutchman Clint van Oort was a discovery for me. I can't say I like the way he drives, but I'm delighted with how quickly he understood what the judges wanted to see. Not bad performance by Ukrainian drivers. Rostislav Rogovsky was going very well in the first stage race until his madness was met with Van Oort's cold calculation. The Brits Richards and Buxy met very early in the top 16, where they allow contact, and after a long trial, Steve Buxy moves on. There are lots of good changes to the race and championship organization, though the timing of wheel changes between one more times needs to be reduced a bit. Highlights of the first round of Oman International Drift Championship 2022 are very entertaining. You may have a look at the hints. The track is long and the battles are close. It's great to see some brand new faces on the podium, which is exactly what I missed at the Formula Drift round. First round results: third Steve Buxy Bergioni, second Benedictus Chirbo, first Clint van Oort. It became clear during the training sessions of the second round that the drivers are doing their best on the track. Ahmad Daham and Rostislav Rogovsky looked very strong in the tandem training rounds. Even Sebastian Fontaine, after his run with Rogovsky, posted a request on Instagram who would sell him a grippy Valina tires right here in the paddock. And you know what? He found some. He ran with Valina so cool, but not for long. Valina tires successfully broke the winter's differential of his car, and for the second stage in a row the Dutch 2020 vice champion didn't make it to the start of the race due to transmission problems. The round itself was more memorable not for the beautiful close battles, but for the huge number of crashes. I tried to keep some sort of score, but at some point I just lost it. If there are crash fans among you, you can watch the second stage highlights by the hint with pleasure. And now we'll go through interesting moments of the race. 16-year-old Ukrainian Timur Lipsky eliminated Clint Van Oort, the winner of the first round, although Oort himself made most of the mistakes on his chopped-off Nissan S14. But we should keep the Timur's confident driving in mind. Haitham Al-Hadidi versus Benediktas Chirba in top 8. Al-Hadidi's car caught fire at full throttle in the middle of the track. Can this be added to the list of crashes? Hardly, but it is surely one of the highlights of the race. The driver is fine, the engine isn't. Vasilauskas as a leader shows a better angle than Daham, who sacrifices the angle but gets closer with more style as a chaser. And the judges' scales showed one more time. In the rematch, Vasilauskas as a chaser drives at an acceptable distance, but this may not be enough to win, especially with an opponent who goes so close. Red Bull athlete goes through. Timur Lipsky decided to go berserk against equally insane Baxi, but he got lost in transitions, slipped and spun out. And Bergioni, with his usual aggression, finished the run. The battles for the podium places were spectacular. Ali Maksit versus Steve Baxi. They drove through one more time for the bronze medal. It was very nice to watch such a close tandem drifting. The final, on the other hand, disappointed me. Chirba put good pressure on Daham, but the chaser spun out after the finish line, which is not zero, but definitely a huge reduction for an uncontrolled finish. In the second round, Daham allowed a collision, which caused Chirba to spin. I think Daham's spotter should have given clear instructions to Ahmad not to take any risks. Daham was picked up by a carrying tow truck. On the other hand, how else could a round that was a half a collision have ended? Second round results: third place Steven Baxi Bergioni, second place Ahmad Daham, first place Benediktas Chirba. The season final started with intrigue. There are 6 drivers to claim for the championship title. There are Haitham Al-Hadidi from Oman, Ali Maksit from Kuwait, Clint Van Oort, the winner of the first round, Steven Baxi Bergioni, 2 times podium finisher, Ahmad Daham, the second place of the second round, and Benediktas Chirba, the owner of the second and the first positions in the first 2 rounds. The Lithuanian Chirba needed to get to the semi-finals to secure the title, but he meets Ahmad Daham in the top 8. Chirba can't keep up with Daham's pace, while Ahmad Daham has a perfect revenge for the final of the second round. The chaser puts maximum pressure on leader Chirba. Ahmad Daham eliminates the championship leader in the top 8 and leaves the opportunity for Steve Baxi to become champion. At the same time, Steve Baxi Bergioni has been very successful on the second side of the top 32 bracket, and there he eliminates all other title contenders. Baxi beats Clint Van Oort in the top 8, but he could only meet Ahmad Daham in this race final. It was still a long way to go. Ukrainian Rostislav Rogovsky was lucky enough to avoid the title contenders until top 4. He defeated Mohamed Al-Mansouri in top 32, Mohamed Al-Jabir in top 16, Mohamed Chihab in top 8 and got to the semi-finals. Top 4 gathered interesting drivers. More interesting situation happened in the championship points. Jordan's Ahmad Daham and Britain's Martin Richards meet in the one side of the bracket. If Richards stops Daham, Ahmad can't qualify for a place above 3rd in the season, which means he needs to win. On the other side of the bracket, Ukraine's Rostislav Rogovsky meets Britain's Steve Baxi. If Rogovsky stops Baxi, the Brit will not be able to claim the title and will only be second, also have to win. And Benediktas Chirba had nothing to do but to wait for the results of these runs, as there was still a chance for him to become OIDC 2022 champion. Martin Richards could withstand such a psychological pressure and made a contact with Ahmad Daham right after the initiation. At this point, Daham only needed to finish his chaser run without a mistake. He succeeded and made it through to the final. Rogovsky, on the other hand, put up good resistance to the title contender, and after their battle with Baxi, judges call for one more time. Now it's Rogovsky's turn to fail under the pressure, and he makes a mistake in his lead run, goes off the track and spins out. Baxi is in the final, and Rogovsky has to fight for the 3rd place with Richards. The battle for the third place was short-lived. In the second part of the course, Richards loses his car and crashes very hard into a fence of tires and concrete. The car has been hit hard. Rostislav Rogovsky takes third place at the final of OIDC 2022. The most interesting part was left to us by the finalists. Ahmed Daham versus Steve Baxi. If Daham wins, Chuba becomes champion, Daham vice champion, Baxi only third. If Baxi wins, Baxi himself becomes champion, Chuba vice champion, and Daham is now third for the season 2022. So close were the points of three drivers. This is the kind of final I want to see in every race. Both drivers show a marvelous tandem drift at their highest level of skill from start to the finish. Baxi leads, allowing Daham to get close behind him, and Daham uses this opportunity 100%. Role reversal, and in such a situation, the details decide. Daham as a leader throws two wheels off the track, and Baxi doesn't put too much pressure throughout the run. As Daham made this mistake first, this prevented Baxi from making a clean run as a chaser. Thus, Steve Baxi wins the final of OIDC 2022 and becomes the 2022 Amman International Drift Championship winner. Second place of the race goes to Ahmad Daham, with Rostislav Rogovsky in the third. Race highlights, as always, you can find in the hint. And according to their season results, OIDC 2022 champion Steve Baxi Biagioni, vice champion Benediktas Chirba, the third place goes to Ahmad Daham. And do you know what the difference in points between champion and vice champion is? 0.4, just 0.4 points decided the fate of the OIDC 2022 championship. That's the price you can pay for less efforts in qualifying or an early elimination in tandems. Congratulations to Baxi, Chirba and Daham, and look forward to next season's Amman International Drift Championship 2023. That's all I wanted to tell you in this episode of One More Time. I hope you enjoy the format. We will definitely discuss all other major drift series of the world during this season. Feel free to discuss this and future episodes in the comment section below. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and appreciate our work by liking and subscribing to the channel. This was GRINYA. See you in 2 weeks in the next episode of One More Time.